Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Josh. I'm just so thankful that you're here with us. Today we are going to be covering the concepts of logos, pathos, and ethos. So let's get started. First, a little background. Back in the day, Aristotle argued that persuasive advocacy balances three elements: our logos, pathos, and ethos. So whenever we are trying to convince somebody, whether it be in a job interview, whether we're giving a public speech, whether we're writing an article, we should be thinking about how are we going to achieve each of these three elements. First, let's talk about logos, or our appeals to reasoning. A lot of times people think of logos as logic, and so when an advocate is presenting qualified evidence to draw reasonable conclusions about what we should do, that's logos. Logos reminds us to make a compelling argument supported with evidence and a coherent rationale. So in order to do this, we might use statistics to show our position. We might use the available evidence to kind of craft a narrative about how we should understand something that has happened, or we might just rely on expert testimony to justify our appeal to our audience. Regardless of how we do that, we are thinking of how are we going to appeal to reasoning or logic? How are we going to develop a logical argument that our audience can buy into? The second ingredient is pathos. People often refer to pathos as the emotional appeal, but its meaning is a little bit broader than that. Pathos is about putting your audience in the right frame of mind to accept your positions, and usually we do that through invoking specific emotions. We can invoke those emotions in a number of ways, right? We can develop a specific narrative that is heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, and provocative that puts our audience in that frame of reference. We can also be careful in how we select the words that we use. Certain words are more powerful and convey different meaning and can cultivate different emotions. We also want to make sure that our tone is appropriate for the kind of emotion that we want to convey and how we want our audience to feel. And so pathos is all about getting our audience to feel our message. The third and final ingredient is ethos, an appeal to character. We are much more likely to believe someone who we trust, who we think is knowledgeable, who we think is a good person. And so ethos is about the speaker displaying or showing their audience their good sense, their good moral character, and their goodwill towards the audience in that moment. Now, a lot of people often think of ethos as either being ethics or credibility, and that's a part of it, but if we think of just credibility, we might think of someone's credentials, we might think of someone's reputation. Ethos is a little bit different than that. Ethos is about what you are doing in that moment, in that exchange with the audience to show them your ethical character, your good morals, your practical judgment and knowledge on the topic that you are trying to discuss. And now I want to kind of briefly mention that for all of these proofs are all about how the speaker or the advocate displays them to the audience in that moment. It is based off the choices that we make as we engage with our audiences, and so we need to be carefully thinking through every time that we are trying to persuade somebody, how are we cultivating each of these: logos, pathos, and ethos. Today, I hope you learned just a little bit more about ethos, pathos, and logos. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and check out some of our other videos for more educational content about rhetoric and communication. Have a good one. See you next time.